Welcome to Health, students watching. From previous lessons, what is one way that we can know God? Students watching. Anna.
By reading his Bible.
Yes, by reading his word and trusting him as Savior. What is one way that we can love God? Students watching. Morgan.
By serving him.
Yes, by serving him and others as well. What is the key to being safe? Students watching. Dev.
Being aware.
Good. What is the emergency number to call for help? Asa.
911.
911 is right. When you are practicing protecting yourself and others, what are you practicing, Emily?
Safety habits.
Yes, we're going to read more about those safety habits today. Let's talk about some things that we will learn more about, ways to be safe. Carson, read our first word.
Pedestrian. Pedestrian.
You're very close. We're going to put the accent on a different syllable. Pedestrian. Class, repeat.
Pedestrian.
Now, a pedestrian is someone who's walking. You may walk to certain places. You may walk on the sidewalk or alongside of the road. We're going to read today about the safest way to be a pedestrian. Readers, come and read our next word for us, cadence. An intersection is a place where two streets cross. So we're going to find out how we can safely cross that intersection without harming ourselves or others. On page 100, we're starting with terms to remember. Tyra, begin.
Pedestrian.
Nice and loud for us.
Pedestrian, a person walking on a sidewalk or along a street. Dusk, when the sun is going down and it is beginning to get dark. Street safety. Do you like to go for walks? Whenever you are walking on a sidewalk or along a street, you are called a pedestrian. A pedestrian should walk on the street only if there is no sidewalk. If you must walk on the street, walk on the left side of the street toward traffic so that you can see the cars that are coming and keep out of their way.
Good. Now let's pause. I would like row 1 to come demonstrate this with me. So Kathleen, Gage, and Kaden come stand in front of our table here. I'm going to be the pedestrian. They're representing the cars. So pause right there. Well done. You can turn and face me. And well done. Now, if they're the cars, I want to be on the left side and I want to be walking towards them so that they can see me and I can see them. What happens if I'm walking in the same direction? My back is towards the cars. I can't see what's coming behind me and they're not as aware of me because I'm moving away from them. So moving towards them when you're walking on the left side of the street is the best place to be walking when you are a pedestrian alongside of the street with cars. Thank you, row 1. You may return to your seat. Now let's find out more safety tips for walking as a pedestrian. Continue reading for us, Aiden.
You should never take a walk alone. If you walk to school or to a friend's house, you should always walk with others and use the safest way to and from school. You should always walk on the sidewalk if there is one. You should also avoid walking across empty lots where there might be rusty nails or broken glass.
Good accuracy. So let's pause. What do we call a person who is walking on a sidewalk or a street? Students watching. And Dev.
Pedestrian.
Yes. Now, another pedestrian safety rule is to never go to that place by yourself. So even if your friend's house is only a short distance, it would be better if you could have mom or dad or a friend walk with you there, and then you could have that person meet you. If you're going to maybe walk half the way, you could have that person walk with you half the way and then meet your friend. That way you're not walking alone. It's always safest to walk with someone else when you're going to your friend's house, when you're going to the bus stop, when you're visiting the park, any of those locations. It would be best to go to those places with someone else, not alone. If there is a sidewalk, use it. Don't walk on the edge of the street if you don't have to. If there is a sidewalk, make use of it. That will keep you safe as that pedestrian. Continue, Emily.
Remember that it is never safe to accept a ride from a stranger. If a stranger approaches you, yell for help and run in the opposite direction.
Good accuracy. Now let's pause. Is it safe to accept a ride from a stranger? Students watching. Jackson.
Nope.
No, it is not safe. You don't know that person. Even if they seem friendly, that might not be the case, so don't accept that ride from that stranger. If you feel uncomfortable, yell for help and then begin running in the opposite direction. That way that you can remain safe in that situation. Take out a pencil, let's look at our picture, or think about it, street safety. Which side of the road should you walk on? Circle the child who is walking on the correct side of the road. Do you remember why you should walk on that side of the road? There are 3 children. Which one is the one doing it the most correctly? Students watching. Deaf.
The girl on the left.
Yes, the girl on the left. Why is the girl on the left being the most safe, Asa?
Because she can see where cars are coming.
Yes, she is aware of the cars coming towards her, and they can see her as well because she is facing them. Well done. Now put your pencil down, and let's talk about some signs that you may see as a pedestrian. Sometimes larger cities have lots of these signs that you would make use of as someone who is walking alongside of that street. Kathleen, go ahead and turn on the lights for us. Let's take a look at the first 2 at the top. The first one you see here is a hand. It's shaded red or orange, and it says, "Don't walk." That's telling you stop and wait. There are cars moving, many cars moving. So when you see this at a crosswalk at an intersection, you want to wait. Sometimes these numbers will even count down until this hand stops and says, "Don't walk." So follow that sign. That's for your safety. That means there are many cars still moving on that street. Now the other one over here would be the opposite, telling you it is now safe to walk. Traffic is flowing in the opposite direction, so you are able to cross that street safely and you do not need to worry about those cars. Now you should still be aware that there may be another car turning or moving in a different direction from the rest of the flow of traffic. So you still need to be watching, you still need to be aware of what's happening, but it is now most safe to cross that intersection. Let's read more about these signs that we can follow as that pedestrian. Continue reading for us, Anna.
Cross a busy street at an intersection or at a crosswalk. Do not enter a street between parked cars. This is unsafe because the drivers of approaching car. This is unsafe because the drivers of approaching cars cannot see you.
Well done, Jimmy.
If there is a traffic light, wait until the light turns green or red or reads walk. If there's no traffic light, look in all directions for cars before you leave the sidewalk and cross only when it's safe.
Very smooth. So pause. If you are going to cross that intersection, use the crosswalk. Follow those signs. Watch for the walk light to turn to that signal so that you can safely cross that street. Why is that important, students watching? Emily. Are cars aware of you if you are crossing when it says don't walk? No, they're more aware of you if you have that signal that shows you to walk. So they're going to be watching for that. Watch and cross when that sign reads walk. That is the most safe. Should you cross between parked cars? Students watching. Jimmy.
No.
Why?
Because they might start their cars and then they'll run over you.
They could start their cars and not be aware of you. Also, traffic moving in that direction is not going to be as aware of you if you're crossing from between those parked cars. They're watching for people at the crosswalk where people would be walking normally, but between parked cars, they're not as aware. So crossing at that crosswalk is most safe. Let's look at the checklist at the top. Most common causes of pedestrian accidents. Read those for us, Carson.
Crossing an intersection when the light is red, crossing the street where there is no intersection, entering the street between parked cars.
So to stay safe, watch and think through those rules so that you don't do these things and you don't get involved in that accident. Where is the only safe place to cross a busy street? Students watching. Morgan.
The crosswalk?
Yes, the crosswalk at an intersection. Why should you never enter a street from between parked cars? Kathleen?
Because the driver might not be aware of you and they might start the car and hit you.
Okay, the drivers of the parked cars aren't aware of you, but also the drivers of the cars along the street beside those parked cars are not aware of you. If there is no traffic light, what must you do before you cross the street, Adriana?
Make sure there's no cars coming.
Yes, and what else should you do with your eyes, Dev?
Look if any cars are coming.
Yes, look in all of the directions several times to make sure it is safe to cross. Pick up your pencil. Let's think about it, street safety. How could you prevent the most common pedestrian accidents? We're going to do it number 1, 2, and 3 according to the 3 checks. So the first one says crossing an intersection when the light is red. So what could you do to prevent that accident from happening? Students watching? And Carson.
Don't cross an intersection when the light is red.
Exactly. Don't cross the intersection when the light is red. What about the second one? The warning says crossing a street when there is no intersection. So what should you do, Cadence?
Crossing a street where there is an intersection.
Good. Crossing a street where there is an intersection. And if there isn't, then make sure you look in all of those directions. The last one says entering the street between parked cars. What can you do to be safe, Asa? Should you cross the street between parked cars?
No.
No. So don't cross the street between parked cars. Find the intersection instead. Find that pedestrian crosswalk. Now you may place your pencils down. Let's talk about some more things that you may see as a traffic sign and some other times you may be involved with crossing a street near a busy intersection. Let's take a look at these signs at the bottom. The first one here is a sign that you see drivers use and focus on as they're driving, the stop sign. This is when the cars will come to a stop and look in all directions before continuing on. Here, you see that this sign shows that there is a school and that people will be crossing the street to get to and from the school. This sign here shows us that a railroad is close. Some vehicles will always stop at a railroad, so you need to be aware of those. There are going to be some vehicles that will slow down and make sure that the traffic and the railway is clear before they continue across. So this shows us that there is a railroad crossing coming as well. Let's read more about these signs as well as what we should be aware of as a pedestrian. Continue, Jackson, with Do You Ride?
Do you ride a bus to school? If you get off the bus and need to cross the street, you should cross in front of the bus. The traffic is stopped for the bus, and the bus driver can see that you get across the street safely.
Well done, Amaya.
Whenever you get into or cut out of a car that is parked along the side of a street, you should get into or out of the side of the car that is closest to the curb. If you open the door on the side closest to the street, you could cause an accident or be seriously hurt.
Good accuracy. Now let's pause. When you are crossing near a bus, should you cross in front or behind? Students watching. Madison. Arthur? Emily?
In front.
In front is right. That is correct. You should be crossing in front. So even though the traffic is supposed to stop, when the bus puts out the stop sign and the lights begin to flash, and you're thinking, I'm ready to get on the bus, I'll cross in front. You still always want to make sure that all of the traffic follow that sign. So don't just go running in front of the bus to jump onto the bus. You need to stop and look in all directions, make sure all of that traffic has stopped before you do cross and get on the bus. So watch and look even before you get on the bus. And remember, you do want to enter from the front and not from the back. If you are entering a car, which side should you enter and exit from? The curb side or the street side, Jackson? Curb, yes. If you open along a street, a car could be driving by and not notice that you're about to exit, and they could hit the door, and that could cause an accident. But if you enter or exit on the curb side, the traffic will not harm you. You'll be safer on that side. Make sure that you're thinking through those rules when you're entering and exiting that car. Now, there's a time of day when sometimes seeing is a little bit more difficult. That time of day is dusk. That's the time when the sun starts to set, so the lighting in the sky changes, and for drivers and pedestrians, it can be more challenging to see. Let's read what we should do to stay safe during that time. Continue, Kaden.
At dusk, when the sun is going down and it's just starting to get dark, the shadows make it very difficult for drivers to see pedestrians. For this reason, you should try to be home before dusk. Never walk alone at night. Whenever you must be out at dusk or after dark, you will need to be even more watchful and careful. You should also wear light-colored clothing or carry a light so that car drivers can see you. Traffic signs.
And pause. What do we call the time of day when the sun is going down and it starts to get dark? Students watching? Aiden. There's a time of day. Jimmy?
Dusk.
Dusk is that time of day, right. Now, if you're going to be a pedestrian during that time, walking somewhere, what color clothing should you wear, students watching? Aiden. Jackson?
Light.
What is it, Aiden?
Light.
Light-colored clothing. The darker colors are more difficult to see with all of the shadows. So wearing that light-colored clothing helps drivers to be able to see you and helps you to remain safe. Now let's read more about these traffic signs. Think about it. Do you know which or what each of these signs means? Read about the railroad crossing for us, Presley.
Railroad crossing. A round sign warns you that a railroad crossing is ahead. The railroad crossing sign reminds you to watch for a train before you cross the tracks.
And read about the stop sign, Asa.
A stop sign is an octagon. It has 8 sides at a stop sign. You should stop and look for cars before you cross the street.
Pause. So a railroad crossing sign is what shape, students watching? Morgan. Railroad. Presley?
Circle.
It's a circle or it is round. So that's the railroad sign. And the railroad crossing sign is the X, and that reminds you that the train could be moving down those tracks. So you need to be extra careful to look and to listen when you're walking over those railroad tracks. The stop sign is what shape, Morgan?
Octagon.
Yes, and it has 8 signs. It's red, and you want to make sure that cars do stop there instead of just running across in front of them, looking in those directions, being aware of that sign as well. Let's read more about the warning sign. Dev.
Warning sign. A diamond-shaped sign is a warning sign. It warns drivers to slow down because of danger ahead.
Well done. Kathleen, the school sign.
The school sign lets drivers know they are close to a school. It reminds them to drive slowly and to watch out for children crossing the street. This helps you to be safe if you walk, ride in a car, or ride on a bus to school.
Very smooth. Pause. What shape is the warning sign? Students watching. Dev.
A diamond.
Yes. This sign is to help drivers know that there's a lot of things going on in the road, lots of curves, to slow down and be careful. The school sign is that 5-shaped sign, or that 5-sided shape, and that is a pentagon. It's showing us that a school is nearby, so the drivers need to be slow and careful for cars and people that are going to and from the school. Now, we always want to remember in all situations to be safe. One thing we can always do if we're not is to get that help of an adult. Let's read about personal safety. Madison.
Personal safety. God has given you a wonderful body, but some parts of your body are private. These private parts of your body are the parts that are covered by your swimsuit. If anyone tries to touch you in these areas, no matter who the person is or what they say to you, yell for help and run away. Tell your parents or a trusted adult immediately.
So find that help if you ever feel unsafe. Take out a pencil. Let's look at our comprehension check. We're going to write the letter of the correct answer in the blank. Looking at A through G, the back, curb, front, pedestrian, parked, sidewalk, or traffic. Number 1, what do we call a person walking on a sidewalk or on a side of a road? What are they called, students watching? Carly.
Pedestrian.
Yes, pedestrian. Number 2, always walk on the what? Gage?
Sidewalk.
Yes, if there is one, make use of that sidewalk. That's why it's there. Number 3, do not enter a street between what kind of cars? Aiden? Parked cars is right. Letter E. Number 4, when getting off of a bus, always cross the street in what of the bus? Caden? Front. Letter C. Number 5, always get into and out of the car on the side closest to the what, Jackson? Curb is right. Finish your last answer. Then you may close your books, rest them to the side, smile when you know the answer to the question that I say. When the sun is going down and it is getting dark, what time of day do we call that? It's very difficult to see because of the shadows. Students watching? Carson?
Dusk.
Dusk is right. And we'll pick up here, students watching, in our next lesson.